I didn't even realize that Tay Keith did the beat for Sexy Red. I thought they just took the Metro Boomin one.
Because you have the King Willonius layer, and then you have the Metro Boomin layer where he produced the beat. But if Tay Keith somehow interpolated his drum pattern, then that's a conversation to be had. Aaron, before you leave, I want to ask you, because you're in Atlanta right now, and you also have residence in Nashville. Metro Boomin's in Atlanta, Tay Keith from Nashville. Have you seen now that we covered BBL Drizzy Beat in the last episode? Have you seen now that the BBL Drizzy track has made its way onto Sexy Red's album?
Yeah, the streets are hot about that.
Yeah, and it's like split. Some people love it. Some people think it's the wrong move. But I want to show you two things, because this is crazy, right? Like, we talked last time about the track being an AI generated sample by a comedian named King Willonius, who utilizes AI platforms, generative AI platforms, to create his content, right? So I was just watching, because when it dropped, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Sexy Red's producers, Tay Keith. Tay Keith has crafted Sexy Red sound. All her hits are, with the exception of, I think, Looking for the Hose, are Tay Keith productions. So they're like Batman and Robin right now. I saw this on Facebook, posted by Complex. It says, Drake raps on Metro Boomin's BBL Drizzy for Sexy Red collab, You My Everything. I'm like, wait a minute. I saw the credits. It's produced by Tay Keith. What's going on? And some of my producer friends were like, no, it's exactly the same beat. And we have to stop misusing the word exactly, because it wasn't exactly the same beat. It's in a different tempo and it's in a different key. But the drum pattern is the same. However, in order for someone to maintain the drums while time stretching and pitch shifting the sample, they would have to have stems or something. So there's something weird going on here, and I don't know what's going on. But I remember talking to other folks. I think one thing that's glaringly egregious is that King Willonius has never been credited for any of this stuff. So I acknowledge that the credits on Spotify aren't always accurate. They're actually rarely accurate. A lot of the times the producer's not even credited. So I don't think Tay Keith would have stood for not being credited. And, you know, he's at such a level now that there's no way you're not going to credit Tay Keith. But initially, King Willonius got no credit for BBL Drizzy, right? It was to the point where people were like, no, that's a Metro beat. And it's like, yeah, it's a Metro beat, but it was sampled by, or it was a sample of a King Willonius creation. The fact that it was AI generated, do we think that's part of the reason the credit situation is so nebulous right now? Like, people don't know what's going on with this. I don't.
It feels like almost like it's like a Splice sample, because if you go on even just Instagram and type in BBL Drizzy to add a sound to your story or reel, there's, last time I looked, which was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, there's at least 20 that were on there, which means not only were they uploaded to their distributor, they were released and they were distributed to social platforms, which is a whole nother step. You know, like a lot of them do it automatically, but that's a whole nother step. So there's all these people able to claim the credit, because you have to put the credit up, you know, once you register with your DSP. And, you know, because I'm assuming nobody's claiming, which is what you had talked about, Pain being so difficult with Content ID and such, nobody can claim the ownership. So each person is claiming that they own it. I'm wondering what's going to happen in the YouTube space. I haven't really looked that deeply at it, but yeah, I think that this is going to be extremely interesting. But I think that because it's AI generated, nobody's making a fuss about it. Even with King Willonius, I saw on Twitter where Metro credited him after everybody was tweeting like, yo, this is, and he was like, man, thank you for your service to the world or whatever. And King Willonius was like, it was a joke. I'm just excited to be a part of hip hop history. So even I think now that he's seeing how big it's getting, he's probably going to go back and be like, oh, shoot, Drake is on my track. Sexy Red is on my track. Let me see what I can do. So I think the can of worms is about to be wild, honestly, if he wants to chase it. He may not want to chase it. Who knows? But I think it's very interesting because now that it's been released on Sexy Red's album, and claimed, so to speak, I think now all of the content ID from UMG is going to be like, no, everybody's got to take down this song, which is, I think kind of the point. It's like a diabolical revenge because now the song has to come down everywhere, if I'm not mistaken. I'm assuming that's what's about to happen. It's going to come down off of YouTube. It's got to come down off of Instagram because of the claims by a major record label, the biggest record label with the biggest artist. So it could be just like I was saying that Metro making this was diabolical. Drake putting his voice on it, I think is him being like, I'm taking all of this back. So who knows what's going to happen? It's very fascinating.
Well, my understanding, one, I think Salas, Dame, Aaron, even me, I'd gladly throw my hat in the ring. If King Willonius wants to pursue this, DM one of us. Because from my understanding, yes, it's AI generated. So I think a lot of people think because it's AI generated, it's just out in the ethers. And all that has to happen is for someone to put a claim on it. But copyright law doesn't work that way. From everything I've read, based on copyright law, his original track is copyrightable, and therefore he owns it because it contained enough human input from him. And then just because he utilized a generative AI platform, the generative AI platform can't claim legal ownership of that based on how copyright law operates. So as a songwriter, his lyrics are his property and they're a part of this song. Exactly. And since no one else is a part of the song because it's AI generated, that by default legally makes him the full owner of that track. So he could be monetizing everything right now. And I think he's doing the right thing by staying quiet. We have no idea what his plan is. And I'm not saying he's just going to pop out of nowhere with crazy legal action. I think they're going to handle this amicably behind the scenes. But I'm guessing someone on his team, someone around him, some lawyer, someone must have contacted him like, there's probably like $250,000 just sitting there that should be going to you right now. At least right.
I think that's a very fair assessment, and him being, like you said, as quiet as he's been publicly, there may be. If he's has any level of experience or people around him, be like, yo, let just keep banking up, and get some clarity maybe on the copyright. But if nothing else, like you said, songwriting is, going to be some of it. And so, at the bare minimum, but it's going to be very interesting the next year, 2 years, 3 maybe years, as far as how all of this kind of shakes out. It's going to be very interesting. And I think we needed something like this, to be at the forefront of like, okay, so what do we do about this larger conversation? What I'm saying? When it comes to the legality, the copyright, and all that, what do we do about the larger, conversations? So sometimes you need something to like be overwhelmingly successful to be like, all right, probably, I don't know if any of us are old enough to remember like the first sample issues in music, and when the Sugar Hill Gang came out, like I would, wonder what those conversations were like. It's like, hey, isn't this someone else's song? And you guys just put it out.
Because the law didn't account for that. I actually put that in my video when I recently made a video about all the backlash that a lot of modern day producers are getting for sampling hit songs within the last, 15 years. And I was like, wait a minute, but Sugar Hill Gang, and granted, that's a contentious song in terms of hip hop history, right? Like the pioneers don't really acknowledge that as a great song that was part of the culture, that came from the culture for a number of reasons, but people can do their own research. But it was the first commercially successful rap record. And then the first recorded rap record is also contentious based on some of my conversations with some other hip hop pioneers. So that song sampled the Chic record, and that Chic record dropped a year prior. So conceivably, they made that song and within both songs within the same year. So yeah, what was that conversation like? It wasn't like it was an obscure disco track. It was a hit.
Yeah, it was an actual hit record. And so that's what, late 70s when that comes out, right?
Yeah, about 79, 80.
79, maybe 80, right? So fast forward, let me do the math, 40 plus years later, I think we're having maybe our Sugar Hill Gang Chic conversation with the AI space. It's going to take the BBL Drizzy to be like, yeah, that's funny. That's all fun and games. Hey, but what do we do about the legality of who owns what? Because I didn't even realize that Tay Keith did the beat for Sexy Red, because I never listened to anything close enough. I thought they just took the Metro Boomin one and and he just rapped over that. I had no idea because, like I said, I didn't listen. I didn't really care enough to. So I'm like, oh, you're like, oh, wait, Tay Keith produced a song. It's extremely similar to, it's like, ooh, okay, well, all right. What is that? Yeah, you ask a very interesting question. Like, I'm fascinated just from the question standpoint.
Because you're right, absolutely. It's a lot of layers. Because you have the King Willonius layer, and I feel like he's the guy that's holding the rug. And if he pulls the rug out, then everything topples over. And then you have the Metro Boomin layer where he produced the beat that really popularized BBL Drizzy, which doesn't make him an owner necessarily. But if Tay Keith somehow interpolated his drum pattern, then that's a conversation to be had, because now that's you sampling someone who sampled someone, right? And so they're a co-writer. There's just a lot going on. And I think it gets crazier when you recognize that, like Aaron said, Metro Boomin didn't know the source of the sample of the BBL Drizzy. It was just a viral comedy sketch, basically, that was floating around the internet. Everyone was sharing it. So he sampled it. He made it into a beat that everyone loves, and didn't acknowledge, because he didn't know. I'm not blaming anyone here. Metro didn't know that it was AI generated. And so here's the plot twist. And I want to show you something crazy. And this is, shout out to Akira the Don that shared this with me on Twitter. I didn't even know this. This year, Metro Boomin signed a public statement demanding AI companies cease their assault on human creativity. And then about a month later, he pretty much pushes AI, generative AI, the same AI that this public statement from Artists' Rights Now released, is going against, trying to prevent. So this is, to me, this shows you how insidious AI is. We don't even know that it's happening. Taz Taylor retweeted my tweet about this and said, look at all the people, picture all the people who are anti-AI, all the artists who are just casually jamming out to BBL Drizzy, not knowing it's generative AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the point. Like, I doubt Metro even knew that AI played a role in this.
No, he didn't. But now I would love to hear from him, now that he knows that that is the case, and now that Artists' Rights Now knows that's the case, and all these, because there's a lot of artists on this list. Everyone, Phineas, Billie Eilish brothers on there, Benny the Butcher's on there, Hit Boy's on there. Yeah, I would love to hear from all of these artists now, after the success, the viral success of BBL Drizzy, after the normalization of and wide public acceptance of an AI sample. What are their thoughts now?
Well, the thing about a stance in general, right? It's easy to have that until you're confronted with something, that same stance that's made something either convenient for you or entertains you, right? And you're like, and you don't even realize, like, not to change subjects, but I remember learning that certain kind of like chicken or turkey sausages, whatever, were still encased in pork and whatnot. It's like, wasn't that like wasn't the point not to eat the pork and whatnot? But the casing helps, as far as as far as keep the form or whatever, right? And it's similar to that. It's like your intent can be like, oh, I'm anti AI because AI is not good for human creation and it takes away from human creativity and blah, 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 until someone says BBL Drizzy, and you don't realize how they made that. It's like, hey, this is funny because I hate this guy so much that this is funny. And I'm going to make a beat and whatnot, not realizing this is the chicken sausage wrapped in pork.
Yeah. Yeah. Or that just reminds me of all the minds that I've blown from the people that I had a close friend who was a pothead. He's like, I ain't never smoked no cigarette. I don't fuck with tobacco. I'm like, you're smoking a blunt right now.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't want to get into like, but that's a great example. Yeah. People will take a very hardline stance until they realize that they're actively participating in what they position themselves against. And it reminds me of, Dame, didn't when the AI Drake track dropped, and funny, same actors, it was a fake Metro Boomin beat over or under a fake Drake song that the ghostwriter dropped, and the music business freaked out. And I think Universal Music Group issued a public statement saying, we're going to oppose this, similar to this public statement that Metro signed. And little did anyone realize UMG and these other labels were quietly investing in this very same AI that they're claiming they need to protect music from. And so I think in Metro Boomin's case, it was just a matter of him not really knowing what the source of the sample was with the label. We didn't believe it to begin with, but then we were proven right by their investment in these AI platforms right away after the fact. So it's a very interesting time we live in. I think the conversations that need to be had are what we're talking about, and then deeper than that, from actual legal experts to really bring this point home and figure out what the next step is for us as creatives, for artists, for the tech world, for the label world, and then for the federal law.
Yeah.
Because how is that going to account for this?
I really think, we're in that era, like I said, about samples and whatnot, and, who owns what, what can you do with someone else's music? I think we're 45 years later. It's like, oh, this is the new version of that. And lawmakers are going to have to get, and that's going to get tricky, right? You're going to have to take lawmakers who aren't creatives, having to kind of like determine, certain guidelines, standards, rules of engagement going forward. And it may be clunky for the first few years. And then we may get a better sense of it. Or we may get it right initially. I don't think we're going to get it right initially. I think we've used technology to so much to propel entertainment, as far as like how to make a beat, how to record yourself, all these different things, right, have gotten so much technology has been implemented in creation already. You know what I'm saying? Where there's some blurred lines of maybe, AI in some of this to get to this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, because anyone can make a beat and have like no music theory, right? I can just get GarageBand and just make a beat, right? And it's like, and I've never like, read music or, played an instrument. So we've allowed, I won't use AI, but we've allowed technology to help us. And now we're going to be like, oh yeah, but this is going too far. It's like, it gets, and I'm not trying to have that moral ethical conversation, but it's like, we're going to have to look at ourselves. We're going to have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, we've allowed a lot of things to happen. Why is this now the thing that we need to put our foot down? Yeah. And come up with real reasons why this is the thing. I'm not saying not saying we shouldn't do that, but I'm saying, because we did allow a lot of other stuff to happen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think, you know, we get a lot of comment. We got a lot of comments saying just that on the last video, and I thought there were some pretty intelligent responses. And I think what you're saying is you're challenging us to really articulate why this is different. Why this is different. Like, it is different. I'm not saying it's not, but let's be intentional with why is this different, and really make real, you know, points. Because if it's on some, well, anybody can do it, well, but anybody, that's what happened with music. Anyone could do it. Anyone could shoot a video. Anyone could do all these things. Any novice could just pick something up and just do it, which goes back to what I was saying about rappers thinking that, you know, this is a good get rich quick scheme, because it doesn't take, there's no barrier to entry to get in and get a beat, you know, there's tight beats and there's all these things, like there's all these different things that have expanded the business, but also have, you know, made it accessible. Why is AI now the thing where we're like, enough's enough? Yeah, exactly. We have to stand on something and whatnot, you know?
I mean,
I agree. I think that's a great way to...
It's a complex situation. It's definitely not going to be sorted out. The industry has a habit of trying to stop things that can't be stopped. Like, AI is here, you know, we just have to figure out it's extremely complex. There's a ton of different parties. I definitely don't anticipate it getting sorted out quickly or anytime in the next couple of years. Probably it's gonna take a while.
Well, I think one of the difference here, the industry was so late on technology and things so many years before like Napster and all that. Now they're like super proactive on, okay, what is next, so we don't get caught with our pants down again. And so it's like, you know, Spotify was starting.
Are they? I mean, if you have like major labels trying to sign petitions to stop something, like is that?
But if they're quietly investing, you know, it's kind of like how a lot of people didn't know that, you know, years ago the three major labels were investors in Spotify. You know what I'm saying? Everyone can complain about the stream, you know, the value of a stream. You know who's not complaining about the value of a stream? The labels.
Right.
They're very quiet. They're like, no, we're good. We're making the most money we've ever made in the history of the business and whatnot, with the streams being the value that they are and whatnot. I think the labels now, I think the three majors are now like, okay, 20 years ago, we got caught with our pants down when Napster came around and LimeWire and all that, and almost erased us. I think now, quietly, Dane, I think they're very much, you know, on the forefront of things that are emerging and whatnot. And maybe from PR standpoints and whatnot, they can't say, hey, you know, they can't put their arm around AI, you know, publicly. But to think that they're not aware and have at least secured potential interests, you know?
No, for sure. I mean, they're hedging their bet, right? Like they're hedging their bet. So I don't know if that's being, maybe that's being a little bit smarter about it, but I don't know. We'll see.
Labels have never been and will never be pro artists and creative. You know, right.
That's the key. No, I mean, go back to the meme. They are the capitalists in that meme. They're the only capitalists in that meme, because they've perfected the system and then they've systematized a whole lot of stuff. They've systematized all kinds of nepotistic practices, discriminatory practices, et cetera, to the point where they are smart. This is, for them, it's a smart investment because they know they're going to win. For the artist who's just going into it blindly is not a smart investor. That is someone who's following their passion. And that's the problem with the meme. But yeah, I think this is probably the greatest way to end the conversation, because all these points give way to, I think, the next level of engaging with this topic. We can't just sit around and say, oh, well, that AI is hot, or how do we resist AI? This is the situation. What's next for us?
What's next for us? Exactly. This is the situation. What's next? And why is your stance what it's going to be? Which is fine. Stand on it because, like I said, you maybe compromise that same ideology in other ways without realizing it and whatnot. And so, and it's okay that things are kind of like, fluid and maybe situational. It's like, well, I like technology here, but I don't like it here. It's like, all right, to each his own. But the next couple of years are going to be very interesting. And I think this BBL Drizzy is going to be the thing that kicks off. We'll move on culturally to some other things and whatnot. But behind the scenes, legally and whatnot, I think the BBL Drizzy thing is going to be like, hey, we need to sort this out. Who owns this?
BBL Drizzy is the genie out of the proverbial bottle. Yeah,
and that's probably great, right? It's like, all right, let's get this out in the open and figure out. So if someone does something, who owns it? What is the ownership? What is the true value? What is the asset? Whatever it is, right? What is the intellectual property? Is there a copyright? Who gets the copyright? Whatever those things are,
Yeah, and then how do we anticipate what the labels are going to do? Because I'm not worried about what a producer is going to do. I'm not worried about what a comedian on social media is going to do. I'm worried about what these systematized, corporate-owned systems are going to do with this. What are they going to do? 100%. And how it was like with Napster, everyone freaked out. This is the end of music. I'm sitting there like, no, that's not the end of music. You had to be out your mind. But it felt like the end of music to a lot of people, and artists were being reactive. Same way a lot of people are being reactive to AI. We got to stop it. We got to stop it. Then streaming came along, and the artists that were complaining about Napster shut the fuck up because they're part of the label system. The artists that didn't, they're still digging their heels in. Some of them have found a way to circumvent that and make their own money and be happy. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it didn't kill music at all whatsoever. I think it changed the musical landscape forever, and it changed the way people perceive the value of music.
Yes. Probably
for the worst, but here we are, and we're not going to stop AI, so we need to look at what happened with Napster going into streaming technology, and how, because a lot of artists probably wish they could go back and do something different during that juncture. Now I'm like, here we have another great opportunity. AI is here.
Learn from what happened, when we were at a pivotal point, right?
Yeah.
Because I always, I'm older, so I always, tell, creatives younger than me who complain about the streaming era. It's like, yeah, but you're the same generation that as fans use Napster. So you created the inevitability by devaluing it at the time as a fan, and now you want to complain about the value of what it is now and whatnot. Learn from your participation and whatnot. We're at this point with AI. Where do you stand? And wherever you stand is where you stand. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to tell people what they should and what, but where do you stand, and how do we go forward collectively? Or are you going to go off on your own and be rogue against what everyone, some people are like, we're not going to use AI at all. And some people are like, no, AI is actually great. I'm going to use it for myself to do, whatever, or vice versa. And so it's going to be very interesting from, like I said, how we engage with the, this, and it's the next few years are going to be very telling.
I just want to know what the labels have up their sleeves. But having said that, we appreciate you joining us. Dame, do you want to close things out, or should we? Well, I want you to shout out your social media at least, so people can engage with some of these conversations that you're having.
Twitter, I still call it Twitter, and Instagram. Salis, SALLIS MONEY, Salis Money. And I'm very much approachable and engaged, so people can reach out and tap in with me.
Nice. Yeah, definitely appreciate you joining. Make sure people sign up at tolost.com. Use the promo code @odds. 3 months free music distribution. I know we didn't promote it in the beginning, but we do it all the time. I know you guys are aware. So just click the link in the description, sign up, 3 months free music distribution, and we'll see y'all next week.
Appreciate you tuning in. Peace.